The film begins by showing a forest where a special agent from Bangladesh named Masood Rana is preparing his weapons for a mission to rescue a hostage held captive by a mafia group from America. Rana, also known as the agent with the codename MR9, then sets off on his mission alone, heading to a luxurious house not far from the forest. Upon arriving, Rana immediately incapacitates all the guards around the luxurious house before entering and further eliminating several guards. The scene shifts to the mafia boss named Richie Ross, who is contacting Rana's superior, Major Rahat Khan, and mocks him for sending Rana alone to handle all of his men. Unexpectedly, Rana has already succeeded in eliminating half of Richie's men. Upon realizing this, Richie intending to flee, he then orders his right-hand man, Same, to kill their hostage and then blow up the headquarters with a time bomb. Meanwhile, Rana continues to confront the remaining Richie's henchmen, and after successfully eliminating all the guards, Rana hurries to the room where the hostage is located. Unfortunately, the man held hostage has already died, and Rana decides to take the hostage's body with him. Shortly after Rana's departure from the headquarters, the bomb set by Richie's men explodes and destroys the building. A week later, in Las Vegas, Roman Ross, who is the leader of the biggest mafia in America and also Richie's older brother, meets with Richie. They talk about their plans to sell illegal weapons to the Middle East and even plan to build an advanced weapon to give to the rebels. If they manage to create this weapon, it is believed that World War III could start soon. On the other hand, the CIA director, named Paul Taylor, and his deputy, Duke, are holding an important meeting to discuss the mission to capture Roman and to stop the production of dangerous high-tech weapons. After a lengthy meeting, Paul and Duke instruct their subordinates to gather comprehensive information about Roman, including Richie, who is involved in the mission to manufacture dangerous weapons. In the afternoon, Same is seen enjoying himself with prostitution after deciding to retire from being a mafia member. Shortly after, Same receives a phone call, causing him to leave his room, and unbeknownst to Same, Paul and Duke are waiting outside to capture him. Upon realizing this, Same tries to escape from the pursuit of the two CIA agents, although he eventually gets cornered on the rooftop of a building. Duke then tries to persuade Same not to resist and promises to release him if Same agrees to provide information about the Ross brothers. Unfortunately, Same resists, forcing Duke to confront him until Duke accidentally pushes Same off the rooftop, resulting in his death. After that, Duke and Paul lose their only informant who had important information about the Ross brothers. Because of this, Paul suggests they should ask Rana for help, as Rana has experience in tracking down Richie before. Switching to Rana, who is visiting his parents' graves in Bangladesh. At that moment, Rana gets a message from Rahat, telling him to come to the Bangladesh Intelligence Agency office as soon as he can. Upon arriving at the office, Rana meets Paul, who has been waiting for him. Paul immediately explains that the CIA needs Rana's help to capture the Ross brothers, who are known to be assembling high-tech weapons that could trigger World War III. Impressed by Rana's prowess in previously eliminating dozens of Richie's men alone, Paul wants to recruit Rana to join the mission to capture the mafia. Upon hearing this, Rana immediately agrees to Paul's request on the condition that Rahat gives him permission. Rahat does not object to this since the capture of the mafia is related to world security, but Rahat asks Rana to return to Bangladesh after the mission is completed. Sometime later, Rana traveled to America with Paul and Duke via sea route. After that, Duke explained to Rana that in his upcoming mission, Rana would be partnered with a woman named Devi, who is a secret agent from Pakistan. To begin their mission, Rana and Devi must pretend to participate in an antique auction organized by Roman, which was deliberately staged by him to cover up all his crimes under the guise of being an antique collector. Upon arriving in America, Rana was taken to the Mojave Desert where his hideout was located. The next day, Rana picked up Devi from an airport as they both were about to start their CIA mission. That evening, they both dressed up as a couple and went to the antique auction hosted by Roman. Soon after they arrived, Roman came out to greet all the guests. After the auction, Rana quietly went into Roman's room. Unfortunately, a guard caught him, pointed a gun at him, and took him to see Roman. During their meeting, Rana was suddenly given an injection of a liquid that made him pass out. When Rana regained consciousness, he found himself tied to a chair, and Devi also appeared to have been captured by Roman's men. Roman then asked his girlfriend named Gia to interrogate Devi outside, while Roman would interrogate Rana. At that moment, Roman asked who had sent Rana, but Rana refused to speak, which angered Roman. Meanwhile, Devi fought Gia and Roman's men who were about to take Gia to another location. At the same time, Rana managed to untie his hands, ran downstairs, and took a motorcycle to escape. Luckily, Devi had already left the house, so she was able to join Rana and they both escaped together on the motorcycle. That afternoon, Rana and Devi arrived at their hideout in the desert, where Rana was contemplating how they could quickly capture the Ross brothers before the high-tech weapon was completed. Unbeknownst to them, Roman's men had reached the front of Rana's and Devi's hideout after they tracked the GPS location from the tracker on the motorcycle Rana was riding. Quickly, Roman's men began to enter the yard until one of them stepped on a landmine previously planted by Rana. As a result of the explosion, Rana and Devi finally realized the arrival of Roman's men, prompting them both to ready their weapons. After that, a shootout ensued between the two secret agents and Roman's men. In the midst of the battle, Rana was seen having a fight with one of Roman's henchmen, but with his martial arts skills, the secret agent managed to quickly eliminate his opponent. Meanwhile, a sniper was preparing to shoot Rana from the yard, but fortunately, Rana was saved after Duke shot and killed the sniper. After successfully eliminating all of Roman's men, Rana, Devi, Paul, and Duke quickly reorganized their strategy to complete the mission of capturing the mafia boss. Devi then told them that she had heard Roman was planning a big meeting the next night at a casino with someone who would pay for the war weapons to be made. Devi admitted she knew where the casino was, and they could surprise Roman during that meeting. Hearing this, Duke and Paul agreed to Devi's suggestion, so they all prepared to execute the capture mission the next night. The following day, Roman was seen talking with his only son, Jason Ross, who asked for permission to represent Roman at the meeting that night. Roman initially refused because the meeting was crucial regarding the funding of war weapons. Jason then pleaded again, stating that he was the heir apparent to Roman and needed to understand all of his father's businesses. Upon hearing this, Roman eventually allowed Jason to go, on the condition that Jason would still be accompanied by Ricci and some of their troops, including Yakub, who was Roman's trusted man. That night, Ricci, Jason, and several members of Ramon's troops had arrived at the casino, unaware of Rana's presence, who was disguised as a casino visitor, while Devi disguised herself as a dancer to monitor the mafia meeting. Shortly after, Jason and the others met a man from Russia, and just as the Russian man was about to hand over a suitcase of money, Rana quickly aimed his shots at them, causing a shootout to occur inside the casino. Duke and Paul were also seen assisting Rana, who now managed to shoot Jason unconscious. Meanwhile, Ricci chose to flee from the casino before he could be caught by Rana and the others. After that, Yakub took Jason away in his car after seeing him lying on the ground, and Rana, not wanting to lose his target, immediately pursued the car driven by Yakub. On the other side, Duke, Paul, and Devi were still exchanging fire with Roman's men. In the midst of the battle, Duke was forced to duel with one of Roman's men, but fortunately, Duke succeeded in defeating the man. Not long after, all of Roman's men at the casino had been defeated by the CIA team, leaving only Gia who was helpless. Duke then promised not to capture or kill Gia on the condition that she agreed to disclose the identity of the person assembling the high-tech war weapons and the location of their manufacture. Not wanting to die in vain, Gia finally told Duke all the information she knew about the war weapons being made by Roman. At the same time, Rana was still seen chasing the car driven by Yakub that carrying Jason. Inside the car, after losing a lot of blood, Jason ultimately died before Yakub could reach the hospital. Rana's pursuit was then forced to stop after he could no longer chase Yakub's car, which broke through a railway barrier just before a train passed. Upon arriving at the headquarters, Yakub brought Jason's body before Roman, who was devastated by the death of his son. Roman then asked who had killed his son, and Yakub explained that the killer was Rana, who they had previously captured. Upon hearing this, Roman swore to avenge Jason's death, especially after Yakub informed him that all of Roman's men at the casino had been killed except for Ricci, who had fled during the shootout. Roman then ordered Yakub to focus on completing their plan to manufacture the war weapons, while Roman would handle all the chaos. The next day, Rana received information that the person assembling Roman's war weapons was a professor from Bangladesh named Karim, who had a base at a dam. Without wasting any time, Rana immediately went to the dam to meet Karim and asked the reason to assemble war weapons for Roman. Kareem then explained that he was paid very well by Roman, so Kareem could not refuse Roman's request. Rana then asked Kareem to show him the location where the war weapons were stored, leading Kareem to take Rana to the professor's laboratory located in the middle of the desert. Upon arriving in front of the laboratory, Roman's men pointed guns at them and told them to go into a room that connected to Roman via a video call. At the same time, Yaqub arrived, bringing Devi, who had been captured, before Rana. Through the video call, Roman expressed his intention to avenge the death of his son and questioned why Rana was meddling in his business when Roman did not know Rana at all. At that moment, Roman was unaware that Rana and Devi were special intelligence agents sent by Paul and Duke. During the video call, Kareem suddenly killed his colleague who refused to side with Roman because the professor was actually willing to manufacture the war weapons of his own volition to cripple the world's economy. Meanwhile, Rana, who was cornered, revealed that even if he and Devi were eliminated at that moment, the CIA and the American military would soon come to ambush Roman and others. As Rana had predicted, Duke and his team quietly entered the laboratory after successfully incapacitating the guards outside. At the same time, Paul was tasked with assisting Duke from afar by utilizing satellite signals. After realizing that the CIA had arrived, Kareem, in a panic, hurriedly went to his hideout, while Rana and Devi were taken to another room by one of the guards until Rana managed to incapacitate the inattentive guard. At the same time, Duke was still confronting Roman's men. Returning to Rana, he appeared to instruct Devi to quickly find a safe hiding place because Rana was preparing to fight Yaqub, who was trying to eliminate them. Realizing that he could not compete against Rana, Yaqub, who had briefly fought with the secret agent, chose to escape to save Kareem. After that, Rana went upstairs to search for Roman, but unfortunately, Rana was suddenly attacked by one of Roman's men, injuring his shoulder. Shortly after, Roman arrived, pointing his gun, and fortunately, Duke arrived just in time to save Rana's life. The two then dueled, although Duke had to stop the fight and leave to deactivate a bomb set by Roman's men. After that, Rana took over from Duke to confront Roman. Unfortunately, because of his severe injuries, Rana was cornered by the mafia boss until Devi stepped in to stop the fight. Sadly, Devi died after Roman attacked her with a sharp weapon. Unwilling to accept Devi's death, Rana quickly grabbed the sharp weapon and directed it at Roman's neck, killing the mafia boss. With the death of Roman, the mission of Rana and the others was considered complete, even though Kareem and Yaqub managed to escape. Sometime later, Rana returned to Bangladesh and visited the graves of his parents. 6 months afterward, Paul was seen observing two fighters practicing swordsmanship in a dojo. After the training session, Paul approached the dojo leader to request permission to recruit the two fighters because Paul needed their help to pursue Richie, who was reportedly hiding in the Himalayas with Kareem to continue manufacturing advanced war weapons. Besides recruiting the two new fighters, Paul also invited Rana to rejoin the mission to capture Richie. At the end of the film, it shows Richie, Kareem, and Yaqub chatting and celebrating their escape from the CIA chase, with Richie remarking that their game was not over yet. Unbeknownst to them, Rana and the two fighters recruited by Paul were ready to parachute into the Himalayas to hunt down Richie and the others. Moral lesson from the story: if you're going to mock someone's backup plan, make sure you're not standing next to a time bomb. And remember, never plan a family meeting at a casino unless you want to bet on who leaves in handcuffs first.